Binyamin Appelbaum, The Economists Hour, False Prophets, Free Markets, and the Fracture of Society. In the book, The Economists Hour, Binyamin Appelbaum takes us on a riveting journey through the historical socio-political landscape, analyzing the role economists have played in shaping society, from the end of the military draft to the transformation of global economy. This summary delves into the rise and fall of Keynesian thinking, explores the impact of free market ideology on monopolies, examines the extent of deregulation, and evaluates the consequences of unregulated markets on economic crises. The central themes highlighted include the influence of economic thought on policy, the consequences of prioritizing efficiency over fairness, and the continuous debate on the role of the state in the economy.
The role of free market economists in ending the draft. The Vietnam War sparked student protests in the U.S., demanding an end to military conscription. But behind the scenes, a group of unlikely activists fought for the same cause: right-wing economists. Milton Friedman, Martin Anderson, and Walter Oy were among the economists who believed that a draft system was an infringement on men's rights. They argued that offering a fair wage for service and only hiring voluntary recruits would be a more efficient and fair system. Their views eventually gained traction, and Martin Anderson personally delivered a memo to Richard Nixon, who campaigned on ending the draft and succeeded in abolishing it in 1973. Free market economists played a significant role in changing the policy, and their victory paved the way for more policy shifts in the years to come. The Battle of Economic Theories. In the 1960s, while the space race between the US and the USSR was taking place, another conflict was happening within the American government, a feud between economists. On one side were the Keynesians, who believed in the power of government spending to boost the economy, and on the other side was the Chicago School, led by Milton Friedman and his associates, who believed that the government should step back from managing the economy. Despite Keynesianism being the dominant economic theory for decades, it eventually led to high inflation, which Friedman and his team argued could be controlled through monetarism, or government control of the money supply. Although monetarism was a radical departure from the traditional Keynesianism, it gained popularity in the 1970s and beyond. The rise and fall of Reaganomics. In the late 1970s, America's economy faced stagflation, and the solution was a new approach proposed by economists Robert Mundell and Arthur Laffer: cutting taxes. President Reagan embraced this and implemented massive tax cuts, but the results were less than expected. The rich got richer, inequality skyrocketed, and there was less revenue for important social programs. Despite the flaws, Reaganomics continues to be a popular economic approach in politics today. The rise of monopolies. The pursuit of economic efficiency led to the rise of monopolies and the decline of government regulation in the market. In the past, the government acted as a referee, breaking up big businesses, preventing mergers, and enforcing labor laws. However, economists argued for a hands-off approach, leading to corporate mergers and deregulation, which ultimately resulted in the formation of monopolies. The airline industry is a prime example of this phenomenon. While airline deregulation made flying more affordable, it eventually led to the formation of 4 companies that now carry 80% of U.S. passengers and charge higher prices than their more regulated European counterparts. This book examines the dangers of economic efficiency and the need for government regulation to prevent the rise of monopolies. The value of a human life. The replacement of moral reasoning with cost-benefit analysis in government regulations has become a controversial topic. This form of reasoning quantifies the potential benefits and drawbacks of any activity, including the installation of safety equipment in vehicles. Economists have been central to this transformation, and the cost of a human life is now used to determine whether a law is worth it. Though this approach has faced pushback from older regulations, it has been adopted by the government and has even led to sweeping policy changes under the Reagan administration. The rise and fall of fixed exchange rates. In 1944, the Allied countries met to form the Bretton Woods Agreement, which set fixed exchange rates between currencies with the US dollar as the standard. The aim was to stabilize the value of currencies and make trade predictable. However, this system became unstable when economies like Germany and Japan rebounded by selling goods into the flourishing US market, accumulating dollars that ultimately made it impossible for the US to back each dollar with gold. In 1971, President Nixon withdrew from the Bretton Woods Agreement, thus creating a large, volatile new system of trade where currencies were floated or left to market forces. This led to the value of currencies shooting up and down, making the US dollar extremely valuable and strong but also sinking US manufacturers who struggled to compete with cheaper international imports. By the mid-1980s, millions of factory workers were left unemployed. Chilean economic experiment. In the early 1970s, Chile was on the path to an emerging industrial economy until the CIA-backed coup of Augusto Pinochet overthrew the country's president, Salvador Allende. Pinochet put Friedman's economic ideas to the test and handed control of the economy to a group of right-wing, free-market economists known as Los Chicago Boys who implemented Friedman's favorite policies. The result was a convulsed economy, with a small number of Pinochet's supporters becoming very wealthy while huge swaths of the working class lost their jobs. Pinochet eliminated financial regulations and capital controls, which allowed foreign investors to buy up Chile's natural resources and forced Chilean businesses to borrow massive amounts of foreign currency. By the end of the decade, poor management made the country less prosperous than Cuba. Although Pinochet was finally ousted in 1990, the legacy of his free market experiment remains, and the country must now rectify decades of inequality and political repression. The danger of unchecked markets. Economist Alan Greenspan championed unregulated markets throughout his career, despite evidence of their flaws. This summary highlights how unregulated markets often lead to financial crises. Credit derivatives and subprime mortgages were examples that caused high-profile financial busts, with some institutions filing for bankruptcy. Calls for financial regulation were ignored, adhering to Greenspan's ideology, which resulted in a huge financial bubble that eventually burst and leading to the 2008 economic crisis.
The Economists Hour delivers a compelling account of how free market ideologues have cemented their influence in world politics over the past 5 decades. The summary highlights important events such as the end of the U.S. military draft, the demise of fixed exchange rates under Bretton Woods, and the consequences of unregulated financial markets that led to the global financial crisis of 2008. Amidst the varied policy decisions debated through the years, readers are left with a deeper understanding of the complexities of economics and its role in shaping our modern society. The book ultimately serves as a thought-provoking journey into the realm of policymaking, urging us to consider the implications of economic ideologies and practices, both in terms of efficiency and ethical considerations.